you say these things, but you try to be strong, but let them see you cry, right? So if there were days that we were missing you, or, I remember you went on a 3-day TDY and I stood in the garage and I cried. And I just let the kids see me, because I'm like, they need to understand that while they miss Daddy, I miss him too.
I think there's strength in processing your emotions together with your kids too sometimes. It's a bonding experience where they get to see and understand that, mom and dad are just like me. And the things that I feel, I can see that in them and understand they're going through the same thing. And how do they process that? We process it together and we talk about it together. And I think in the end, it reinforces that reassurance and validation they're looking for, to know that it's going to be okay in uncertain times.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the Serving with Faith podcast, a show exploring Christian leadership principles in today's military. Now, here is your host, Michael Cuddy.
Good. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Serving with Faith podcast. I'm your host, Mike, joined here again by my lovely wife, Stephanie, for the continuation of our series, Raising Kids in the Military. In today's episode, we're going to look at anchoring the family in faith during uncertainty. Uncertainty is something that military families deal with, and it's part of the job. We all have to wrestle with it different ways. And, we can teach our kids self-reliance to regulate, or we can look to God as the answer on how we deal with uncertainty. And so if we immediately go into the word, let's go to Isaiah 33:6, and it says, "He will be the stability of your times, abundance of salvation, wisdom and knowledge. The fear of the Lord is Zion's treasure." And the point here is that God is our anchor in everything we do in life. And especially during uncertain times where we may be nervous, anxious, and fearful of what's to come, dependence on the Lord is the way we do that. And what I like about this verse is at the very end, it says, "The fear of the Lord is Zion's treasure." And this is not a negative fear. This is not like you should be afraid of God. We're talking about holy fear here, which is the fear of being away from God's presence. And so this verse really ties it back to, the Lord's treasure is being near him, right? And so that's what we want to do. We want to draw nearer to God. And my wife loves uncertainty in the military life, and she is
It's a little exciting sometimes.
Yeah. And so you're constantly dealing with uncertainty and wanting to know. So tell me a little bit about how that makes you feel.
I like to know all of the situations. I want to know every angle of what could happen, even if it's some little small talk in the office. I want to know so that I can, I guess, mentally prepare for all of the options of the uncertainty that comes with the military, with moves, with what they're doing, in their jobs, or the kids, and what we have to look forward to. I don't know, I guess I enjoy the research. I enjoy learning. I enjoy the options and having a way to explore all of the things that could come with this military life. So yeah, I do enjoy it.
And while I would love to give her all the potential possibilities of what, our life in the military is going to look like, the Army never delivers the way we think it's going to. And there's always some last minute change that causes us to adjust and have to really be resilient. And it's one thing I think has been good for our kids is the uncertainty itself has helped us develop resilience in them to be able to deal with that kind of change early on. And our kids really have matured a lot faster than most kids, because they're forced to be in these situations where they have to.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, their maturity level is just different than those who stay, in one place their whole life, and they're surrounded by the same common people, especially their social skills. But the uncertainty makes them also pray with us during these times and rely on God. And they know that no matter where he puts us, back in the day where you had to label your assignments 1 through whatever, and you're hoping for the top 10 and you get like number 25 or
Exactly.
whatever it is. We uncertainty there. You don't know what you're going to get. That was back a few years ago when they had the system like that. But yeah, the kids know no matter where we end up, where the Army sends us, there's a reason. God put us there for a reason, and we figure that out. We talk about it out loud with the kids. So through the uncertainty, they know that we're going to end up at a solution of God put us here for this reason, or, God prepared us for this by having us go through this, whatever that is. But the uncertainty with the kids, it causes anxiety, of course, but I think that they're learning how to process that and how to work through that. Obviously, we don't put more on them than what's age appropriate. Of course, we don't tell them everything. We keep what they need to know as they need to know. And then we ask. We've asked them before.
Yeah.
What do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? We can't say that your answer is what it is, but we want to hear from you. We want you to be involved. This is your life too.
Yeah, I think communication is key, especially for kids in the military, to understand really what they're feeling, what emotions they're feeling. And, they look to us as parents to understand how do they deal with these types of things. And, I like to say as a military leader, great leaders do routine things routinely. And the one constant that I think our kids see in us is when it comes to these uncertain times, there's a lot of prayer involved.
What?
And, we openly talk about, hey, where are we going to move to next? What's happening? Is there a big event coming up where dad's got to go away for a little while or something like that? And I think what they've seen is we pray about all these uncertain things and ask for discernment and guidance, peace and comfort from God. And every time he delivers. I can't think of a single time where, we've prayed about something dealing with uncertainty in the military life where God didn't answer in some sort of way or form or fashion. Just even getting here to this assignment, we were looking for a house here in Orlando, and I think we looked for like 2.5 months.
It was the longest that we've ever searched for a house. I mean, things were falling through. Nothing was working out. Our biggest prayer was, surround us with, people who have faith and who have kids that want to play. Our kids love to play and they love to play hard. And so it was just crazy that all these houses fell through and we ended up where we are now, surrounded by a wonderful like plethora of kids and kids of faith that our kids love to play with. And so it definitely was an answer to prayer. And it was one of our biggest things that we wanted to ensure we had when we moved here.
And I think what was cool about that is I remember not feeling any kind of anxiousness about it. I knew it was taking a long time for us to find a house and it was coming down to the wire, but I just had this peace and comfort over me knowing that God's going to make it happen. We're going to find something. And we ended up in the area that we didn't think we wanted to be really, looking at. But it was an option that came up and it turned out to be, exactly what we needed.
Because God did it.
Yeah, exactly.
We thought we could control, but nope, he placed us here.
And so, when we talk about, uncertainty in life tests our faith. And that is an opportunity for us to grow as Christians. And it's an opportunity for us to teach our kids how to deal with uncertainty. And if we look at the word, look at James 1:2-4, it says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance." And then connect that with Romans 5:3-5 that says, "Suffering produces perseverance, perseverance character, and character hope." And so the point here is you should be, not shying away from trials in life that produce uncertainty or anxiousness or fear. These are opportunities for you to deepen your faith with God and to understand and see God come through for you with the right amount of faith and dependence on Him. And there's nothing that you have to worry about.
I think that reminds me of something that you say a lot, babe, is you say mistakes are an opportunity to grow.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
suffering, persevering, pushing through, you know, anything negative, it's an opportunity to grow. So anytime we, don't turn to God or we think that we can control it, like the housing situation, right? It's an opportunity. Okay, God, I see you.
Yeah, I like to connect some things I learned kind of, outside the faith from other military leaders, especially Jocko Willink has a good thing that he says, and that's kind of where I've derived that from is, Jocko Willink says good. Things aren't going the way you wanted them to. Good. It's an opportunity to change. You don't have the weight you need to do the exercise. Good. It's an opportunity to figure out how to get through that challenge, right? And so Jocko is looking at everything as an opportunity to better yourself, and that mindset helps you get through things, right? So I've taken that and applied that to my faith, and good. Another opportunity to rely on God and
Mhm.
understand and know that He is always there. He is always faithful, and He never disappoints. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how you live this life
Yeah.
without relying on God. He's the comfort in the uncertainty. I
Yeah.
know that I can go and like, all right, God, you threw this at me. Help me through it.
Yeah. The biggest time I think in my career where, um, I kind of had some hesitation on wondering if I could get through the uncertainty was definitely the deployments. Um, the first one, Steph and I, no kids. We
Mhm.
handled that like a champ. We got through that. But as soon as kids come into the mix, it is a whole nother level. And it's the worst feeling as a father watching your kids struggle to understand why with broken hearts as you start to walk away and get on that bus. And no matter if it was your first deployment or your fifth, sixth deployment, every father on that bus had the same look on their face. And it was an absolute crushing look. And, the uncertainty of what's about to come with the deployment, especially deploying to Afghanistan and, wondering what's going to happen with the kids. Are they going to be okay? That's a lot of weight on your shoulders. And, take it from another level, knowing that now your wife has to deal with that at home, keeping life going the way it's been going. There's no changes. Like you still got to go to work. You still got to take the kids to school, doctor's appointments, all those things. But now I'm out of the mix. And so that level of uncertainty just increases tenfold. And, I think my deployment in Afghanistan helped me really understand and live through knowing that God was the answer to getting through that uncertainty. So,
Mhm. Yeah, it was, Bryson was 2.5. That was the first deployment that he had to go through, and of course, we got the daddy doll, and that's, a given, and, we had the daddy doll. We also for that deployment, we made a deployment wall.
tell them what the daddy doll is.
Oh, the daddy doll is, you take a picture of your soldier or your, service member, and there's a company that makes it into like a pillow, and it's their picture on a pillow. So if you are going through a deployment, I highly suggest that. Daddy doll went everywhere, school, the grocery store, to bed. I'm talking, he was stained as all get out when you got home. But the daddy doll, yes, because it's obviously not daddy, but there's a picture of him on it, so he can at least see his face and all of that. But when he got on the bus and we came back home after dropping him off, you had told Bryson, like, hey, buddy, if you miss daddy, just hug your daddy doll and, pretend that it's me or whatever. And so his little 2.5-year-old voice relayed in bed and he was crying. And um, I said, buddy, are you missing daddy? And he was like, uh-huh. I said, well, remember, daddy said if you miss him, you can hug your daddy doll as tight as you want. And he was like, I don't want a member. And it broke my heart. But we had the deployment wall. We had clocks that showed the time zone, so we knew when we could call daddy. Um, we had the map so he could see where he was and the flag and trying to think of, oh, we had stickers, so he got to put a sticker on the calendar for each day. And then we had a chalkboard to where we um counted down the day. So every morning before school, we would, wipe away the number and put one less number on there. And there was also, I don't know if you remember this or not, but there was a Bluetooth stuffed animal. Did you remember?
That's what I was about to talk.
Yeah, I can't remember the brand,
I
but you could Google it. But there's a Bluetooth. It was so cool. It connects to Wi-Fi, and it was a stuffed animal, and he could squeeze it, and it would prompt him to record a message, and then afterwards he could send it, and the message would be delivered to your stuffed animal.
Yeah.
And then he could then send a message back to the stuffed animal as well, and that was so cool. He loved that, especially as a young kid. But that uncertainty, so telling him what he needs to know, not watching the news, but, giving him age appropriate stuff. And then, the other deployment with our daughter, it was actually right after COVID. And so she went from you being home a lot in that situation to then being gone. And it was really, it was crazy for her. She didn't quite understand. She kept asking when, he was going to be back. She was 3, I believe.
Yeah.
So anyways, the uncertainty there, we prayed every night for ourselves, for Daddy. Technology nowadays, it just is so wonderful to be able to video and talk like that, or take pictures and send them and record things. It definitely helps. So that is a plus. But the reliance on God, the prayers, keeping them in a routine of taking them to church. Our church family knew of the situation. They were very supportive. All of that just helps, because if it wasn't for God, we knew God was protecting him and everyone else that he served with. And that, that's the only way we make it through.
Self-reliance has its place in our life, especially for our kids and understanding how they grow up. But in situations like that, in situations like this, self-reliance is not what we want to go with. We want to make sure we're anchoring this back to, God is the answer here. He never fails. I like Proverbs 3:5-6. It says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. And this is something that as our kids get older, they're starting to understand the complexities of what it means to lean on God truly. There's situations where you're absolutely forced to lean on God, or don't, and struggle and see what happens. In Afghanistan, during the deployment in Afghanistan, we had a suicide bomber come onto one of the places we were at, and unfortunately detonate and kill some people, injure a lot of people, and it shut the base completely down. And we had a comms blackout, and there was a period of time there where, Steph didn't hear from me. The kids didn't hear from me. I didn't hear from them. We were in a blackout, and in that moment, all you have to rely on is God in that moment, and really just pray and have faith in him that, it's going to be okay. They're going to be okay. I'm okay. Somehow news is going to reach them that I'm okay. There was a lot of peace and comfort in that moment, knowing that, my reliance on him would be enough. And, I was just praying that would be the same for, you and the kids. So, that was a pretty wild little moment that kind of taught me a little bit, another level of uncertainty and kind of how to deal with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you can't let your emotions get the better of you, right? You have to stay anchored, and pray through that, and, help them through it. But one thing, I was given a piece of advice from someone I worked with, one time, and it was, we all go through emotions, right? Like little kids, of course, they have all these emotions, and we're teaching them how to process through them. But we as adults, of course, we go through the same emotions, right? And I think a lot of times us as parents, we want to look strong for our kids. We want to be that strong, steady rock, through all of the times for them. But sometimes we're not feeling the best, right? Like we're upset, all of those things. And I was talking about that with a coworker, and he told me, he was like, let your kids see you cry.
Yeah.
if you are really upset about something, it could be deployment, it could just be everyday life, it could just be things are overwhelming. He was like, let your kids see you cry. He said that he remembers vividly when he was a young child, his mom got upset and his mom cried in front of him. And he said, I will never forget it because I realized that, like, my mom is upset that this, whatever it was that he had done or whatever,
Mhm.
had upset her. But seeing mom actually have the emotion that she says, she's like, "Oh, I'm so upset," whatever, right? You say these things, but you try to be strong, but let them see you cry, right? So, if
Yeah.
there were days that we were missing you or, I remember you went on a 3-day TDY, and I stood in the garage and I cried, and I just let the kids see me because I'm like, they need to understand that while they miss daddy, I miss him too.
I think there's strength in processing your emotions together with your kids too sometimes. It's a
Yeah.
bonding experience where
Yes.
they get to see and understand that, mom and dad are just like me. And the things that I feel, I can see that in them and understand they're going through the same thing. And
Mhm.
how do they process that? We process it together and we talk about it together. And I think in the end, it reinforces that reassurance and validation they're looking for to know that it's going to be okay in uncertain times.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Let them see it because we're all going through it, so may as well go through it together. We lead on our friends and our family and brothers and sisters in Christ to help us pray and get through those things, and the kids need to be brought in just as much. It's just as important for them. Helps you keep a strong family bond and going through things together, working through things together. But yeah, so now I don't hide it. If
Yeah.
there's something that is upsetting me and whatever, then, we work through it together and the kids would be like, Mom, can I pray with you? Yeah, of course. Please do.
Yeah, but so there's an element of vulnerability there too that military leaders have to have in these situations where you might not feel comfortable kind of being this vulnerable with your family and with your kids, and it feels weird the first time you do it, and there's a little bit of, I don't know what to call it, maybe pride that's kind of preventing you from putting yourself out there and being
Wanting to be the
vulnerable.
strong person.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wanting to be the strong person. But the moment you do that and your kids see that and respond, it's kind of a freeing experience almost. And you really start to understand the power of, the intimacy you have as a family together and to be able to tackle these situations and uncertainty together. And it's all through God. And we can't be with our kids 24/7, right? To give them that reassurance and validation. So it's important that, we teach our kids that their strength to endure comes from God. And, I like to look at Isaiah 40:29-31 that says, He gives strength to the weary. Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. And it's kind of a paraphrase portion of that verse. But the big thing here is understanding that the ultimate assurance that things are going to be okay comes from God. And when nothing else is available and no comforts in life, mom, dad not there, nothing, I know that I can rely on God and I'm going to be okay. And, one thing I've seen Bryson pray for a lot, because we do pray together at night and stuff, is, he prays for peace and comfort at school when mom and dad are not there and he's having to deal with school and, new situations and new emotions, new feelings, all these things that kind of challenge him both spiritually, but, also as, a young kid about to go into his teenage years. Um, it's cool to see that he's making those connections and starting to rely on God and knowing that's where peace and comfort come from when mom and dad aren't there. And he can say that quick little prayer and feel that and know that it's truly there and that God's present with him.
Yeah, and we also reiterate to the kids about how, like, God is your constant friend. It doesn't matter where you are, who you're with, anything, He is always there. So He is your constant friend. Because we move so often and their friend groups change because of where we are, we remind them, like, you have each other, you have brother, sister, of course, mom and dad, but God is your constant friend. You can talk to Him anytime, anywhere. It does not matter. I even think Bryson told us one time that he was feeling anxious, and so he asked to use the restroom and went to the bathroom and prayed. And because he understands, like, it doesn't matter where I am, I can be in the bathroom if I need to be, but that God is their constant friend, that he's not going anywhere, he's steady, he's always there to, listen to what they need or to talk to them, and having comfort in that is helping them get
Yeah.
through the uncertainty. And I know with the deployment and all of that, with our daughter, she didn't understand, like, when you came back from deployment, he would just go to the grocery store or, run to get something. She would be like, "Is daddy coming back?" She didn't quite understand the gravity of everything. And when he was home, she followed him everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere he went, "Daddy, what are you doing? Can I come with you? Can I do that?" Because she was just like, "Let me be a leech," which is what I call
Yeah.
myself, but
I didn't understand that until, one day, we were kind of just sitting in the recliner in the living room, and, she kind of came and sat with me and whatever. And, I was getting ready to go somewhere to do something. I was going to be right back or whatever, but like she latched on really hard, gave me a hug, and she's like, "Are you coming back? Do you have to go back to Germany? Do you have to go back to Europe? Is that where you're going?" And like, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, wow, she is still, trying to get over that trauma. 'Cause that's what it is. It's this trauma that she experienced and is trying to get over. And, as much as that sounds like a negative, and it is in a sense, um, it's one thing I can look at in the military and be thankful for the uncertainty, because it is providing an opportunity for our kids to learn how to be uncomfortable and know that being uncomfortable is okay. Being uncomfortable is a way to grow. And if you want to take yourself to the next level, whether it's as a leader or an athlete or whatever it is you're doing, getting uncomfortable is one of the ways you become better and you grow. And, this has been a forcing function for them and our family to understand that, we can grow. We can grow together as a family through that uncomfortable time, as long as we all understand and know that this is an opportunity to grow. And if we let it be that, we will grow.
Mhm. Yeah, and our son is very protective. He has a huge heart, super protective, loves people big. And one thing that I did not realize was going on in his sweet little head during the deployment was this need to protect us. Himself, me, and his sister. And so it wasn't until after dad got home he brought me this age appropriate weapon, let me make that clear. This age appropriate thing, it was not anything harmful, I promise, but he brought this to me and he said, "Mommy, I don't think I need this anymore." And I said, "Well, why did you feel like you needed it?" And he was like, "Well, dad was gone, so it's my job as the man of the house to protect the family."
That's right.
And I said, "Buddy, I am so sorry that mommy didn't talk to you about this. That you were holding that weight on your shoulders so fast." I said, "Mommy can do that, buddy. If
Yeah.
mom and dad both are together as a team, and if dad's not here, then mommy absolutely will do that." But it's just the uncertainty, right? It's one of those elements that I didn't think to bring up or talk about, right? I assumed that responsibility in my mind, but I didn't process that out loud with him. And he was uncertain. What if something happens? Who's going to protect? And he just felt like, since dad is the protector
Yeah.
when he's home, that it would just fall on his shoulders as being the other man in the home. And so, it was just
Yeah. I think it's something that he
interesting.
kind of naturally came up with, because, I've always talked to him and told him that the dude's like, you are your sister's protector. You defend her to the death, dude. Like your mom, your sister. As a male, it is your responsibility to, if you're in the situation where you look after your sister and you protect her at all costs. And, it's something that I've been trying to drive into him and understand, how sacred and how important females are, and that you should protect them at all costs, and just hold them to a higher level than yourself. Right. And so I think he kind of naturally espoused that, and, wanted to take that on, which is cool. I like that,
Yeah, I just
Uh,
didn't know that was going through his head.
little young to think you're gonna, be able to protect the family in that kind of sense, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was sweet.
I think another thing that is important for raising military kids, especially with uncertainty, is understanding that they have to constantly go through this cycle of 2 to 3 years we're moving. And, and now they know, hey, every 2 to 3 years, dad's going to move. We got to move. We got to go. The Army says you got to go somewhere else, right? And, those transitions are tough, especially when you have to leave your friends and go make new friends. I like to say that my son's never met a stranger in his life. He makes friends really easily. He's very outgoing.
Her daughter's doing that now too.
Chatty cat.
She used to be like a nope, my small little circle, but now she's opening up more.
Yeah, and so that's going to be our next episode. We'll talk about transitions and goodbyes and how to help your kids understand what a healthy transition looks like and how to appropriately say goodbye and stay in touch and make new friends and understand that it's, not a negative thing. It can be a positive thing too. So look for us on that next episode as we talk about transitions and goodbyes. And
We
hope
have some cool ideas for transitions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Things that have worked for us that help make them kind of not fun. They can't be fully fun, right? To completely change, but to help bring some more positivity to those transitions.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add before we close the episode out?
No. Rely on God.
Yeah.
He is our constant in all of the uncertainty that life brings.
Yeah, so hope this helped you guys, and look for us next week for the next episode. Thanks.